Are you a party? Are you a party?
No. We're not a country, Brian. We've never been a country. Our goal is to make sure that today is better than yesterday.
Hey there YouTube fam, welcome back to our channel, and today we've got a hot topic that's been making waves in the political arena. But before we dive in, make sure you hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you never miss out on our insightful content. Now let's talk about Nikki Haley, the Republican powerhouse, former governor of South Carolina and a 2024 presidential candidate. Recently she stirred up quite the controversy by stating that America has never been orthodoxist. Hold on, what? Yep, you heard that right. America is special because its people are always striving to do better and live up to their founding ideals of freedom and equality. That's what she said. But here's the kicker. Critics are not buying it. Some have challenged Haley's claim, pointing to the historical and ongoing legacy of slavery, segregation, and systemic orthodoxist in the United States. Now let's jump into some videos on social media about people sharing their perspectives on this matter. Be sure to check out some of our previous videos providing diverse perspectives on this debate. And hey, don't go anywhere because at the end of those videos, we'll be breaking down the arguments, analyzing the controversy, and giving you the inside scoop. Let's dive right in.
If the U.S. isn't a country, as you say, why are you cosplaying a woman? Nimarata, please tell us why little Nimarata doesn't believe in going by her given birth name. Because to explain that, you would then have to explain why it is that you so choose to use a name that is more palatable to the tongue. A name that, say, looks a little bit more passing on paper. Some of y'all think that rhythm is just someone up on a tree. Oh, wait, the U.S. did that. Okay. Some of y'all think that means that you don't count someone as a whole person, but maybe 3/5 of a person? Oh, wait, the U.S. did that again. Okay, I think I got it. Some of y'all think that it's just simply spreading disease, raping, and unaliving innocent people as you take over their land. Wait, that's the U.S. again. So in addition to the aforementioned that are proven forms of that has existed and still exists in the United States of America, washing yourself is also a form of self-hate.
We used to be able to buy people based on their race and take their children away from them and essay them and then work them until they literally, and it wasn't a big deal. And that happened for a long time. And then when we stopped doing that, we made sure that the descendants of those people couldn't vote and that they got over policed. And a lot of them live in poverty even to this day because of the ramifications of that. And we don't do a lot to stop that. And, yeah, I mean, we used to have limits on immigration of certain peoples based on what they look like and their race. The front runner for your party, the party you're running for, he used your birth name because he knows that the people in your party, not all of them, but a lot of them, think it's disgusting that you have an ethnic name.
Okay. Wow. I can't say that I agree. I know that Nikki Haley is an incredibly smart person. She wouldn't be where she is today without being so. But I can't agree with that. In 1790, you had to be a person in order to become a U.S. citizen. In 1830, there was the Indian Removal Act, good old Andrew Jackson. In 1917, they barred all immigrants from Asia from entering the U.S. In 1929, the United States started kicking out Mexicans, including U.S. citizens, just because they, I guess, looked Mexican. In 1942, which lasted for a few years, the United States created concentration for Japanese Americans. And the Immigration Act of 1952 was supposed to end racial restrictions for citizenship, but all it did was reinforce quotas for nationalities. The very next year, they had Operation Wetback, which again deported at least 1 million Mexicans, whether they were Mexican or not, or even U.S. citizens. And I mean, let's not forget 2017, the Muslim ban. I mean, that wasn't that long ago. So yeah, I don't know that I can completely agree that the United States has never been a country or a country that supports, I guess you could play with those words as you like. But yeah, I don't agree. Oh, and by the way, live in Texas. Today is Confederate Heroes Day. Yep.
There's an old 1930s Victorian play by a man named Patrick Hamilton where a husband drives his wife to truly believing that she's crazy by continuing to change the intensity of the gas lights around the house. And every time she talks about it, he's like, what are you talking about? You're imagining it. That's actually where we get the term gaslighting from. Being in America is a lot like being Truman from The Truman Show. Have you seen the movie? Throughout the whole movie, he's pointing at all the evidence that's pretty obvious that he's a part of some social experiment. And every time he says it to someone around him, how do they respond? They go, what are you talking about, Truman? What do you mean? This is the same conceptual sleight of hand that Nikki Haley and other Americans have been doing, frankly, since the end of the Jim Crow era and slavery itself. What are you talking about? What do you mean? The best way to understand this is to understand this psychological study of semiotic theory. In semiotic theory, you have a sign. Then you have context around that sign. From that sign and the context, you get a meaning. And then with that meaning, you elicit a response. In this example, the sign would be the legal people in America for hundreds of years. The context around that sign is that the torture was fueled by the hatred of that together equals slavery was raised in America. But the response that Nikki Haley gives isn't in line with everything that we just talked about. So by responding that way, the way that Nikki Haley did and the way that a lot of Americans do, they do something very particular. It's not an accident. They begin to call into question the context with which the sign was interpreted. So that when people see that response, it doesn't line up. They begin to look for another context to explain that response. Some people are going to say, oh, she was on TV, she just was maybe rushed. And let me just say this to you, from a person that's been around a lot. She responded to that question with the flagrant disregard of that already existed inside of her.
Really? The U.S. has never been... What about the treatment of the indigenous people, the Trail of Tears? Then you have slavery, the segregation laws, and the Jim Crow South in general. Then you have the Chinese Exclusion Act, you have Japanese internment during World War II, and you have the fact that you yourself, Nikki Haley, do not go by your given name. Instead, you changed it from Nimrata to Nikki Haley to sound as anglicized as possible. Maybe you should set this one out.
But if America was never a country, why did you feel the need to identify as a Caucasian woman when this is who you are? Firstborn Indian American. Indian. Okay? If America wasn't something, you wouldn't have to hide your identity because you know America.
Nikki Haley went on Fox News and said America has always had but has never been a country. Let's talk about it. The American school system might not teach you or Nikki Haley history, but I will. One of the best examples that I can give of America being a country is our history of redlining. Originally, the HOLC created maps color-coding neighborhoods, where areas with African American residents were often labeled red. They were deemed high risk and effectively barred them from crucial financial services, particularly home loans. This practice set in motion a cycle of poverty and segregation as redline areas were deprived of investment, leading to deteriorating infrastructure, schools, and higher crime rates. Though the practice was banned, our history of redlining still has lasting impacts today. Residents in historically redline areas are nearly twice as likely to live near gas and oil wells compared to those in A-grade areas. This disproportionately exposes people of color to air pollution and significantly increases the likelihood of getting cardiovascular diseases and respiratory issues. Home ownership and the wealth gap is another huge issue. For example, in San Diego, there's a 125% difference in home equity gains between former A and D neighborhoods. In cities like New York, where home ownership is below the national average, landlords benefit more from increasing home equity than families who are mostly renters. It is ingrained in the fabric of this country and touches the lives of people of color in every aspect, from schools to housing to health. For Nikki Haley to disregard that is despicable.
People are questioning if Haley's seeing the full picture, and it doesn't end there. Haley acknowledges that her own family faced discrimination as Indian immigrants, yet she insists that America is not R to the cis. Some critics are raising their eyebrows, highlighting the irony in her family's story, facing prejudice in India and America. The big question is Haley downplaying the reality of R to the cis for political gain, or is she genuinely standing by her belief in America's exceptionalism? Stick around because we're about to break it all down for you, and trust me, you don't want to miss it. So grab your popcorn, hit that like button and subscribe, and let's get into this discussion. Being a racist isn't just about personal attitudes. It's a system that shapes opportunities and assigns value based on how someone looks. In the real world, this translates into significant disparities that persist today across various aspects of life. It isn't just a buzzword, it's a fundamental factor behind inequities. Think about it like this. Our sisters and brothers in America face higher mortality rates, lower life expectancy, and worse health outcomes than their palm-colored counterparts. The impact extends beyond physical health, affecting mental well-being due to the stress, trauma, and discrimination they face. Moving on to education, it influences housing, leading to segregation and discrimination. Picture this: where you live can determine the quality of your education. Racial disparities in school funding, curriculum, discipline, and achievement persist across the country. Employment is another battleground. It rears its head in hiring, pay, promotion, and our brothers and sisters often face barriers in accessing capital, credit markets, and technology, limiting their economic opportunities. Now, justice, a system meant to be blind but often tainted by racial bias, our brothers and sisters are disproportionately arrested and sadly unalived by law enforcement. This bias affects decisions from police to judges. And here is the kicker. Art to the cyst isn't only a problem for our brothers and sisters, it weakens the entire societal fabric by wasting human potential and eroding social cohesion. So, when Nikki Haley claims America has never been art to the cyst, it is essential to understand the systemic challenges that persist. It is not just a matter of personal opinions, it is also about dismantling structures that perpetuate inequality. Now, let's dissect the fallout Nikki Haley's assertion that America has never been art to the cyst. Her words have ignited a fierce debate, drawing criticism from various quarters, and here is why it matters. First off, Haley is accused of denying the harsh reality and deep-rooted history of art to the cyst in America. Critics argue that by downplaying these issues, she risks overlooking the ongoing struggles and injustices faced by our brothers and sisters. Beyond denial, Haley is challenged to recognize and address systemic art to the cyst, which permeates every facet of American society, from health and education to employment, justice, and immigration. It's not just about individual acts, it's about dismantling the structures that perpetuate inequality. Furthermore, Haley's stance is seen as alienating to marginalized voters. Many feel she is failing to represent or understand their experiences and needs, creating a potential disconnect between her and a significant portion of the American population. On another note, there is concern that Haley's rhetoric may appeal to a conservative and palm-color supremacist base. Some see her as pandering to those who share similar views or stand to benefit from her statements. Lastly, Haley is contrasted with other politicians and leaders who've acknowledged and condemned art to the cyst in America. They have not just talked the talk, but walked the walk, proposing and implementing policies to combat systemic issues. So the debate goes beyond Haley's individual beliefs. It's about the broader implications and the impact her words might have on shaping the narrative surrounding art to the cyst. Now, let's draw an insightful parallel between the concept of art to the cyst and the cinematic masterpiece, The Truman Show. In this film, Truman Burbank discovers that his entire life is a reality TV show, orchestrated by a powerful producer, Christoph. Truman's world is meticulously controlled, his emotions manipulated, and his actions dictated, all for the sake of entertainment. Now consider this. Victims of art to the cyst in America may feel a comparable sense of entrapment and manipulation. They navigate a society structured by a system of racial oppression and inequality. Just like Truman, they face discrimination and violation from those who hold power and privilege, benefiting from their exploitation and marginalization. Truman is surrounded by hidden cameras, living among actors, posing as friends, family, and enemies. Similarly, victims of art to the cyst are constantly under surveillance and stereotyped by media and the public. Their voices and stories often go ignored or distorted, struggling to find identity and agency in a world that doesn't value or respect them. Both Truman and victims of art to the cyst experience a form of social control that limits their potential and happiness. They are denied the opportunity to live authentic and fulfilling lives and pursue their dreams. Just as Truman fights against the forces trying to keep him in his place, individuals facing art to the cyst have to confront institutions and individuals perpetuating their oppression. To seek the truth and justice they deserve, both Truman and victims of art to the cyst challenge the status quo and dominate narratives shaping their reality. They strive to create their own meaning and purpose in a world that often seeks to silence or marginalize them. The Truman Show metaphor sheds light on the shared struggle for authenticity, freedom, and justice. Alright folks, let's dive into the fascinating world of semiotic theory and its intriguing connection to R to the cyst. Now, semiotic theory in psychology explores how people use signs to create and communicate meaning. Signs, whether they be words, images, gestures, or symbols, play a crucial role in shaping our understanding of the world. Now, let's draw a comparison. R to the cyst, in a sense, can be seen as a form of semiotic violation. Semiotic violation is the use of signs to oppress or dominate others by imposing a certain meaning or value that denies their dignity and agency. In the context of R to the cyst, it's a system that assigns negative meanings and values to individuals based on their perceived racial characteristics, justifying and perpetuating exploitation and discrimination. Another lens through which we can compare R to the cyst and semiotic theory is by considering how the latter offers tools and strategies to resist and challenge R to the cyst. Semiotic theory acknowledges that signs are not fixed or natural. They are dynamic and negotiable. Picture this. People can use signs creatively and critically to construct alternative meanings, question dominant narratives, and express their identities and cultures. Think of it as a dialogue, a collaboration among different sign users. Semiotic theory emphasizes the importance of fostering mutual understanding and respect, creating a space for dialogue and collaboration. It becomes a powerful tool to promote social change by challenging the established norms. In essence, semiotic theory provides us with a lens to understand how R to the cyst operates through the language of signs, and also equips us with the means to resist and challenge it creatively. It's about recognizing the power of signs to shape our perceptions and working towards a more inclusive and just society. Let's wrap up our journey through the complexities of R to the cyst, from Nikki Haley's controversial statements to insightful comparisons with the Truman Show and semiotic theory. Key takeaways: R to the cyst isn't just about personal beliefs, it's a systemic issue shaping health, education, employment, justice, and more. Whether it's Truman trapped in a scripted reality or victims of R to the cyst ensnared in semiotic violation, the fight for authenticity and justice resonates. As we navigate these discussions, it's not just about acknowledging the problems, but actively dismantling the structures. The impact a more inclusive and just society awaits on the horizon. Stay tuned for more eye-opening insights. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Until next time, keep the conversation alive, and we'll see you soon.